Good morning there, colleagues. This is Mark Austin. I wanted to go through with you really quickly the planning tool, the first part of it that I'd like you to take a look at before we chat later this week or early next week. I have calls scheduled with all of you, and I very much look forward to meeting you at the end of the month. The calls that we're going to have are really going to be short, touch base kind of calls, maybe a half hour. We could go longer than that, but I would suspect no longer than 45 minutes. I know your time is very valuable, so we'll keep it short. The reason I'm going to be sending you this planning tool, or the reason I have sent you this planning tool, is that I'd like you to just do a little bit of thinking before the call. However, if you were to not fill out any of this planning tool before we talk, that's really fine. We're going to talk through each of these questions. Really, more than anything, this is really for you to be doing thinking yourself. You do not need to feel as if you have to fill it out and send it back to me. If that's helpful for you, of course, you should go ahead and do it. But really, it's a place for you to make some notes before we talk, and even while we're talking, to make some notes in preparation for our April meeting. So there are a couple of things on the tool. Why don't we go through real quickly? The first thing is I'd like you to really tell me anything you can. The first question basically is describe anything about your network that you think is important to consider as you try to improve your work with the network. And so really anything that comes to your mind, you say, geez, really we could do this better, or it's interesting that that happens in the network. It would be better if we did it this way or that way. Really any of the characteristics or thoughts you have that you'd like to share about the network, how you want to leverage knowledge within the network, how you want to connect people more effectively, anything about the role you play, etc. That second question really starts to go into that and asks you specifically to talk about the role you play. And I like to think about the kind of hat you wear as one way to do that. Are you a facilitator? Are you a connector? Are you an expert advisor? Are you a conduit for information? What kind of hats do you feel like you wear? What kind of hats do you feel like you'd like to wear in the future? Things of that nature would be helpful for you to think through a little bit as we get on the phone. And then finally, I'd love to know a little bit more just about your role, your personal role, the person who I'm going to be speaking with and meeting with, and just learning a little bit more about what you do as you're within your work in the network. I have a general sense of what folks who manage networks do, of course, but I'd like to know specifically kind of how you talk about your work in your own words. So that's really the first section of stuff within the tool to think through. The second are some more specific questions related to the retreat itself, our day that we have together. And one question is basically, if the retreat were successful, if you come out of it at the end and say to yourself, this went well, what will be different 2 years from now for those who are part of the network? Not you, but 2 years from now, if I'm a member of this network, what will be different? So what could we get done in that room in one day that would actually translate into some positive outcomes for folks? Secondarily, what would be helpful to you 2 years from now? 2 years from now, what were you as an organization, not you within your job? That's the third question. The second one is, 2 years from now as an organization who manages, holds, nurtures, supports this network, what will be different for you? And then third, for you in your role, assuming you're there in 2 years, how will things be improved for you in 2 years if we're successful on that day? And I know it's a long kind of string to draw from a one-day meeting to 2 years from now, but hey, why not? Let's look at what we really want to see have happen in that meeting that can have real results, not just kind of theory. The second page of this tool, of the Part 1 planning tool for networks, is a grid. And it asks you to talk about who are the people and the organizations that are part of the network, how they benefit from being part of that network, and what are some of their characteristics that you think are important that relate to the way they exist and behave and are part of the network itself. When we talk about audiences or groups of people, it could be small VCOs. It could be small environmentally focused VCOs. It could be consultants. It could be support providers who focus primarily on X area of support. I really want you to try to get specific. I mean, I think it's kind of easy to say, okay, our members are X and Y and Z. I want you to get specific and really break them into the groups that you think will be helpful for me to know about? And what are their characteristics? How do they benefit from being part of the network? In other words, who's the audience in a sense? Who are the people? And if we don't want to think of them as an audience, but as the owners of their own, existence, so to speak, together, who are they? What do they get out of this network? Why are they part of it? What's the benefit to them? And then, what are the characteristics that you see in them? They like to share a lot. They are not able to get online as often as they want to because they're so overworked. I don't know what those characteristics are. And again, just to emphasize, as far as this whole tool goes, really, it's just about jotting down some thoughts to get yourself going. Finally, the third page I give you, but I ask you to not really do anything with it. It's called a logic model. It's 2 columns, and we'll discuss that on the phone. So you can really hold for the moment on that. So there you have it. It's a very brief overview of what you'll find in the tool. I encourage you to not spend too much time with it. Again, you're very busy. You got a lot of stuff to do, and we're going to really go into this on the phone, and then of course we will go into it on the day that we spend together. But I hope that this was helpful. So once you've had a chance to watch the video, if you have any questions, you can email me directly at Mark, M-A-R-C, period, Austin, O-S-T-E-N, at summitcollaborative.com. Of course, I was CC'd on the email that came with the attachment and the link to this video. So feel free to be in touch with me or Colleen at any time. Let us know if you have any questions, if you need to reschedule the call, whatever it takes, okay? I hope you do well and feel well, and I look forward to meeting you. Bye-bye.